It's Monday, the 13th of June. Good morning, Europe. A very warm welcome to the programme. These are our top stories.
Russian forces destroyed the bridge linking Severodonetsk to its twin city, Lysychansk, as Ukrainian and Russian forces continue street-by-street fighting. Emmanuel Macron, at risk of losing his outright majority after a coalition of left-wing parties, shows a strong challenge to the National Assembly elections. An unbearable heat in Seville as the Spanish city faces its hottest pre-summer heat wave in the last 20 years, with temperatures hitting 45 degrees.
Russian forces are continuing to bombard the eastern Ukrainian city of Severodonetsk. Attacks on infrastructure have destroyed a bridge linking the city to neighbouring Lysychansk, which, observers say, could prevent the evacuation of many civilians. Russia's also destroyed a power station in Donetsk, where they've taken control of the city of Svitlodarsk. On the Mykolaiv front, Ukrainian troops hold out against the onslaught. Kyiv claims Russia has lost some 40,000 soldiers since the start of the war. Meanwhile, on the diplomatic front, Turkey has again announced new efforts to restart stalled negotiations between Ukraine and Russia. Repercussions beyond the region continue, especially over food supplies. A grain terminal in Mykolaiv has been destroyed, and there are no signs of a lifting of the blockade of Black Sea ports. On Sunday, Russia celebrated its National Day, unfurling dozens of flags in the devastated southern city of Mariupol, one of the areas where it's already handed out Russian passports as part of a campaign of Russification. The day was also celebrated in the annexed region of Crimea, where at least the only explosions were of fireworks rather than bombs.
A feeling of victory for the left in the first round of the French parliamentary elections. The country's left-wing alliance, led by Jean-Luc Mélenchon, was neck-to-neck with newly re-elected President Emmanuel Macron's party, and is emerging as the main opposition force.
The
truth is that the presidential party was defeated at the end of the first round. For the first time in the history of the Fifth Republic, a newly elected president is not capable of gathering a majority in the following parliamentary election.
However, barring a major surprise, the president will still obtain a majority in the second round, but with fewer seats than 5 years ago, and with this absolute majority in danger. The country's prime minister called for support in the coming days, saying, "We have 1 week to mobilize ahead of us, 1 week to convince, 1 week to obtain a strong and clear majority. Only this strong and clear majority will allow us to respond to the urgent needs that weigh on the daily lives of the French and to meet the challenges of the future." Next Sunday, in the face of the extremes, by voting for the candidates of the presidential majority, who will allow France to meet its future and its values. The far-right candidate Marine Le Pen failed to attract the same votes that took her party to the second round of the presidential election. In response, Le Pen called on people not to vote for either Macron or Mélenchon in the second round. In a speech, she said that in the places where the second round will be a duel between Macron's party and the left-wing coalition, I invite voters not to choose between the destroyers from above and the destroyers from below, not to choose between those who want to deprive you of your rights and those who want to deprive you of your property. Abstention has played a major part in this election, exceeding 52%, a record for the Fifth Republic. The goal of many of the candidates in the coming days will be to mobilize those who stay at home during the first round.
Emmanuel Macron was re-elected president of France in April,
But now he's under extreme pressure after yesterday's first-round vote in parliamentary elections. The results could hardly have been closer, with Macron's centrist bloc fighting off a challenge from a left-wing alliance headed by Jean-Luc Mélenchon, the far-left leader. According to initial results, Mélenchon's alliance won a larger share of the votes cast across the country than Macron's group. But because of France's constituency system, Macron's group is still on course to win the largest number of seats in the National Assembly. However, it's far from certain of retaining its absolute majority in the National Assembly, which Macron needs to push forward his business-friendly economic reforms, including raising the pension age and overhauling the welfare system. Also, if he loses the majority and Mélenchon's alliance becomes the largest parliamentary party, he would probably be forced to name him Prime Minister, which could lead to a period of inertia in which government was effectively paralysed, with a centrist president and a far-left Prime Minister. In third place yesterday was the far-right National Rally led by Marine Le Pen, who was Macron's main challenger in the presidential vote in April. Turnout sank to a record low yesterday. It was only 47%, and it wasn't helped by the weather. It was a beautiful sunny day, so a lot of people just preferred to spend the time outdoors instead of going to cast their ballots at polling stations like the one behind me in central Paris. David Chazan in Paris for Euronews.
Democrats and Republicans have finally reached an agreement to implement more restrictive gun legislation in the United States. Democrat Senator Chris Murphy is one of the sponsors of these new modest measures, a far cry from what activists have called for, but which means more control after recent tragic shootings in the country. U.S. President Joe Biden hailed the legislation, saying it was a step in the right direction. But he added that is not enough. Thousands of people took to the streets this weekend in dozens of places in the U.S. to call for more restrictions to prevent future mass shootings. The primary school shooting in Uvalde, Texas last month seems to have marked a turning point for gun control in the country, as the United States still mourns the tragic death of 19 children and 2 teachers.
Later on today, the British government will introduce new legislation in the House of Commons in London to override parts of the Northern Ireland Protocol, part of the EU Brexit agreement. Now, the protocol was designed to stop the UK reneging on the Good Friday Agreement. That peace agreement, struck in the late 1990s, says that there can be no hard border between the Republic and Northern Ireland. In order to do this, it meant that Northern Ireland, unlike the rest of the UK, stayed in the EU single market. And that meant there had to be an Irish sea border. So goods which come from England, Wales and Scotland have to face customs checks when they get to ports in Northern Ireland. Now, this was a compromise, but it was one that the loyalist community and their political parties are very unhappy with. The DUP, the biggest unionist party, are currently refusing to go back into government in Northern Ireland because of this. So the British government is trying to unilaterally override parts of it, saying that these customs checks don't need to be carried out. The opposition to this, though, is coming in strongly from the Republic of Ireland government, from the EU and from the US as well. But the British government is adamant that what they're doing is legal because they say the system just isn't working. Vincent McAviney, Euronews, London.